my name is Ammar, and I'm in third year arts and business, majoring in history. I'm also in the international trade specialization, and for my exchange, I went to Dauphine in Paris, France. One of the big reasons for choosing Dauphine was the fact that they offered a portion of courses in English, and for fulfilling ARBIS requirements, that was really, really helpful with courses like strategic marketing and business ethics. And another reason I chose Dauphine was also because they offered Français langue étrangère, which is basically French as a second language. And one of my main goals of going to France was to improve my French and to have that kind of understanding of my ability at a course level was really key for me. And so those are the two reasons I chose Dauphine. I took two courses in French, so they were two courses that focused on the arts culture in France and in Paris in particular. And the second one was kind of an overview of French media. So both of those courses were taught in French, and they were taught to basically what my level of French was tested to be. And I was a level B2, which is about upper intermediate French. And the courses I took in English, I took three. So there was one, company culture, which kind of talked about the companies, the culture of companies and how HR and management basically work to build the culture within a company. The second one was strategic marketing. So that kind of is equivalent to the strategic marketing course that we have here at Waterloo. And that covered marketing strategy and how firms kind of develop brands and internationalize their brands. And the final course I took was business ethics. So again, that was also equivalent to the business ethics that we offer here at Waterloo. And yeah, the content of that course is basically as the title insinuates. And so yeah, those are the five courses I took overall at Dauphine. Okay, there are two types of kind of courses that are offered at Dauphine. So courses that are offered by the international office are geared for the international students at Dauphine. So people coming into those courses necessarily don't come from English-speaking countries, and thus they have a little bit more of a challenge, or maybe kind of there needs to be a little bit more of understanding towards their abilities in the course. So those courses tend to be a little bit easier if you are a native English speaker, just because the requirements, I mean the types of assignments are not as stringent. The teachers are very relaxed. It's not they understand that most of the people there are there for their exchange, and they're going to travel and they want to see Paris and live in France and see everything. So those courses tend to be a little bit on the easier side. I would say they weren't, I wouldn't say as equivalent to a course at Waterloo. But the one course I took, strategic marketing, was actually a course that regular students at Dauphine would take if they were enrolled. And that course was actually very equivalent to Waterloo standards. Like it was taught in English, and so in terms of the reports and the exams we had to write, it was very similar to a course at Waterloo, and it kept me on my toes. So yeah, those are the two caliber of courses that you kind of get at Dauphine. One of the things that a lot of people, when they're thinking of Paris, they have a lot of cliches in their head. They think that everywhere they're going to go, there's going to be like violins playing and love is going to be in the air. That's not really the case. Paris, at the end of the day, is a very international city. It's very, very, it has, its issues. It has its strengths as well. So I would really say, don't go in expecting cliches, because if you're going to do that, you're going to be sadly disappointed when you get onto the metro and it's packed and you can smell everyone and it's not, the lovely French experience you had in your head. Or, you go to the Eiffel Tower and you have to wait in like a 3-hour line to go up the tower because it's just packed full of tourists. But if you go with an expectation that the city is, a city with a rich history, it's a very, again, diverse and international city, with lots to offer in terms of its culture and its arts and kind of fun things to do at night and in the day as well. And kind of, soak in that you're going to meet people of all sorts of backgrounds and different socioeconomic statuses. I think you're going to have a really great time because, again, there's a reason why Paris is Paris. There's a reason why London is London. There's a reason why New York is New York. Hong Kong is Hong Kong. Like, these are international cities that have a lot to offer you. Yeah, again, I think a lot of the stereotypes kind of come down. Like when we hear about France, I think we're still hearing a lot of the really old world stereotypes of, oh, everyone eats like, well, baguettes. Maybe that was true. Everyone does eat baguettes there, but kind of always eating dessert, and everyone's dressed in tea, and like everyone looks nice all the time, and they're very very it's a very unique culture, and it is in certain aspects. But at the end of the day, that they're also very similar to us. So. You'll get like people that are around our age that are they speak English, and they are very heavily influenced by kind of North American culture as well. They don't always dress to their best. Sometimes they are just in a t-shirt and jeans, and they don't eat pastries all the time, because I don't think anyone can eat pastries all the time and look as good as the French do. So I mean, there's a lot of differences. Like a lot of the stereotypes will come down as well, yeah, I guess. And then in terms of French culture, again, I think French also get a bad rep in a way. People say that French people sometimes tend to be not polite. I don't think that's the case. French people are very welcoming for the most part, as long as you make the effort to kind of. Just as when you go to visit any country, or when people come to visit you, they kind of make an effort to kind of know a little bit about your culture. So as long as you make the effort to learn a little bit about French culture, and you're open to it, I think you're going to have a really good time, and people will be generally very welcoming and helpful. I actually have a little bit of one of the downsides is I don't like seafood, and I like all my meat really, really cooked. So that kind of like takes out about half of French cuisine, since a lot of it's seafood, and they like their steak tartare and things that are not very, very well done, in my opinion. So I didn't have a lot of the traditional French cuisine per se, but I mean, I think one of the best things about France is their bakeries. I mean, the wonderful variety of bread you'll get and desserts. It is delicious. Also, I think an experience that everyone should try is kind of seeing the French take on fast food. It's fascinating. Like, well, one of the things that will become a staple for a lot of people is doner, or doner kebab, which is basically like our equivalent of shawarma, but it's more Turkish. You'll kind of find that like throughout the city. Everyone eats it. It's like a great late night eat. And I think one of the big things is that we're used to having like 24-hour drive-thrus and McDonald's and things like that. They don't have that there in France. Things don't stay open all night, so your only option will be basically to get a doner kebab, which is pretty much open till like 3 or 4 in the morning. But French fast food is also interesting. If you go to the more traditional things like McDonald's, their offerings are a little bit different. Like you'll have the standard Big Mac and French fries, but you'll see people eat their French fries with mayo. You'll get like the McBaguette, which is like basically the same thing as a burger, but with like baguette bread as like the sandwich. And they have all these other fast food restaurants that we don't have, like Quick, which I think is a Belgian fast food chain. So I think it's interesting. Like there's a lot to explore. If you miss home, there'll be some tastes of home as well. Again, it's there's a lot of North American imports there as well. But I would say, yeah, also try out some of the French cuisine, especially if you do like seafood, because from all my seafood-loving friends, they say it's fantastic. Things will always be a little bit more expensive. So again, just because of the currency conversions. So like a meal at McDonald's is about like €5 to €6, which in Canadian dollars is like $8. Canadian dollars is $8. So I mean, it kind of ends up being just a little bit more than maybe what we would pay here. It's also because the tax rate is higher in France, so a lot of things are going to be more expensive. Rent is definitely going to be expensive, especially if you're living off campus, like I did. Rent definitely was much more than I paid in Waterloo. So approximately I paid €600 per month, which is about $800 to $850. So it was definitely a lot more expensive than what you would expect living in Waterloo. But I think, again, it's fairly consistent with living in any big city. If you live in Toronto, same kind of deal. You'll be paying around $850 plus for a bedroom, essentially, anywhere. But one of the big things that is really great about France is that if you go to the school there, the cafeterias are really cheap, because as long as you're a student registered at Dauphine, you're able to get a subsidized meal for about €3, which is really good on days when you're at school. And if you go to museums and a lot of places within Europe, you either get a discount. Within France, you actually get free entry to every museum, essentially, with your student card. So that kind of stuff helps. And definitely travel is also really cheap there as long as you book in advance. You're able to get fairly cheap flights or trains or buses or wherever or whatever you're using to get elsewhere in Europe. It tends to be a lot cheaper than coming from Canada going anywhere else. Yeah. The standard of like size is different in Paris. Because again, it's such a big city and there's a lot of constraint on space and real estate's really expensive. Things will tend to be smaller, so your kitchen might not contain everything. I was fortunate. I lived in a banlieue of Paris, which is a suburb, and essentially my apartment was a little bit bigger. It was more to a North American standard, but I had a lot of friends that lived essentially in a one-room place where like they pulled down their sofa and it was their bed, and it was like right in front of their mini stove, not even a stove, just basically a hot plate and like a fridge. So I mean, definitely like your expectations will change, and it depends exactly where you're living in the city. Actually, one of the things I'm going to say is that in France, again, because of the heavy influence of English, it's really, really easy to spend your entire exchange completely in English. And I think that is one thing that people really need to be conscious of. So when you're talking to people or you meet friends, really make the effort to say like, hey, like I don't speak French, but I wanna learn or improve my French. So let's continue this conversation in French, because what will happen a lot of the time is that when you start talking in French, your accent comes through, and thus they'll switch to English because it's not out of rudeness. It's more so they want to make you feel comfortable, so they're going to try to speak in the language that you're most comfortable in. So you really have to make that effort to make sure that you make that effort to speak in French. And also you're going to meet a lot of students that are also on exchange from North America. So I personally, what I did was I made the effort not to hang out with them, not because it was anything personal, as much as I'd love, having Waterloo folk and familiar faces around Paris. I made the effort not to hang out with them just because I wanted to, immerse myself in this new continent and meet people. And I think it was successful because I met people from all over the world and different parts of Europe that I necessarily wouldn't have been exposed to in living in Canada. I think one of the big things about exchange is that you mature quite a lot. When you're kind of on your own and, you don't have someone to run to or someone in a language that will understand you, that is available with you all, anywhere you go, and you have to deal with a new culture. Sometimes the French culture bureaucracy sometimes really can be frustrating. Things start to feel like, oh gosh, like I really have to figure my stuff out and I really need to be on top of things. So that kind of situation leads to a lot of growth. Also, not, again, letting go of all your comforts. So like your friends are not going to be there. Your friends are, in my case, it was a 5 hour difference. So I couldn't just call my friends up anytime I wanted. They have their lives in Canada and I had my own life in France. And so, you kind of really have to learn to adapt and become versatile in a way. Also, when you're traveling, when you're even traveling within Europe, so now you became comfortable in France and you're great, like you can speak a little French and you're comfortable. Well, bam, you're in Italy and you're not going to find anyone that speaks French there, and the English might not be at the same level as well. So you struggle to kind of, or not struggle, but you're challenged with kind of adapting wherever you travel, essentially. And but at the same time, it's a great challenge. You learn a lot. I remember having conversations in bars. I don't even know how they worked, and I really don't. But I was somehow talking in French and English, and they're talking in Italian and broken English, and somehow we understood each other. And having that experience is kind of fascinating. That how much you can kind of get away from kind of cues from what people are saying or the general direction of what people are saying, and you can get a lot out of it. And you'll learn a lot about different cultures. Again, you're exposed to a lot that you're not going to be exposed to necessarily in Canada. And I think the biggest thing is it opens your eyes to this kind of world beyond Canada. Yes, you can go on a vacation somewhere and you see it for like a week or 2 weeks, and you go back home and you're like, okay, well, that wasn't home. That was just I was visiting. But when you're living there, it kind of changes your perspective, and it again teaches you to be adaptable. So in the future, like I think all I want to do is travel, and I want to live in countries besides Canada. I mean, Canada's home, but I want other places to be my home for a little while at least. What you'll find is anyone you meet that comes back from exchange will be fanatical about it. And it sounds cliche. You're like, oh yeah, it's probably because you put thousands of dollars into it, and thus you're gonna say it was the most like amazing couple of months of my life. It sounds cliche, but it is really really true. Again, you're gonna have your highs, you're gonna have your lows. There's gonna be days where you're just gonna be like, I'm not comfortable here. I just want to get on a flight and go home. But then you have those other brilliant days where, you meet these friends and you're having a good time and you're sitting in this thing that you only read about in textbooks, essentially, or you saw pictures of in postcards, and you're sitting there right in front of it. Or to know that, like, your favorite author once walked here or used to, like, eat here on a daily basis. Like, when you get to, like, have those little experiences and those moments and those, I guess, personal, reflection, when you have like that moment to kind of reflect on kind of where you are and how lucky you are, you really, really feel awesome about it, and it's something you'll never forget. Like I go back, I've been back for a couple of months now, and every day I think there's probably at least a little bit of a moment where I'm like, oh gosh, I remember when I did that in Europe. Like that was a lot of fun. And so yeah, I mean, again, I would say if you can, put in all that effort. If you can make it happen, because it's something that is going to stick with you for the rest of your life. You're only going to be this age with this kind of comfort right now. And once you're older, you're going to have more obligations and circumstances will change. And so if you can do it now, because you won't regret it.